Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Amina, and today we're talking about productivity guilt. It's a bit of a personal video. I'm going to be quite, open and chatty and talk to you a little bit about how I deal with this term called productivity guilt. And it's something that actually is quite crippling, and it's especially something that affects high achievers, people that tend to do really well, but actually there's a side that you just don't see, and that is where they feel this guilt called productivity guilt. Now, I didn't even know that this had a term. Apparently it does. I read it in a book or a blog post from someone recently, and it made me look it up and find the definition, and I'll read it out for you. The definition says, productivity guilt is a mindset of feeling bad about not creating, achieving, or working hard. Like I said, it's really crippling because, even though you are doing things, even though you are actually getting stuff done, and to everyone else, you are super productive, you're super successful, you achieved so much, but actually there's this niggling feeling at the back of your mind all the time that's telling you that you haven't done enough. So I thought I'll talk to you a bit in this video about how I overcome productivity guilt. So times where I feel really overwhelmed by how much I want to get done or how much I feel like I haven't gotten done, how I kind of overcome this, and hopefully that'll be useful for some of you guys that feel this, have this similar feeling. But yeah, if you feel like you have experienced this before, then do leave me a comment and let me know in the comments down below sort of what you do to get over productivity guilt, because like I said, it's something that it's quite personal. I think it's something that people don't like to admit and talk about, just because it makes me feel a bit weak to talk about. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if it's something that you feel like you suffer from too. As I was saying before, being someone who is a quote-unquote high achiever, from school we were in the top sets, we were in the gifted and talented groups, we were the one that people always expected to do well. People always expected us to get that top grade, to get accepted in whatever it is that we apply for, and failure just wasn't really an option. Failure, or not getting the top mark or the top grade or whatever, was seen as failure on us as a person, and so it didn't make sense. Why can this person who always gets these top grades, how do they not get into that university, or how do they not get accepted for that scholarship, or how do they not get that certain grade or that certain job? It just isn't something that is accepted in your life if you're someone who has experienced being a high achiever from school. And so speaking myself, I don't know how to deal with failure. I'm definitely getting a lot better, and I'll talk to you a bit about how I've kind of overcome this. But I definitely feel like, because I've never quote unquote failed, in school, I've always done my homework, I've always had good grades, I've always got the top marks, got it into whatever I applied for. Because of that, when there are times that I get knocked back, I applied for a job, didn't get it, or I haven't done as well as I wanted to do in a certain thing, when that happens, it definitely knocks me for six. And it's something that isn't good. It's something that, is not a good life skill, and isn't a good characteristic to have either. And it just isn't healthy for your mindset as well. And I was at an event the other day, and someone was speaking about how when we fail at something, we tend to view our whole self as a failure. When something, happens that we didn't want to occur, or when something happens that we just didn't get what we wanted to get, we just wallow in self-pity, and we consider our whole personality, our whole self as a failure. Whereas when we succeed at something, we don't consider our whole self as a success. We just think, oh wow, I got that job, well done me. But we don't think of ourself as a success. And we should really twist that narrative. And I think that is definitely something that I experience quite a lot. When I succeed at something, I'm really happy, and then I kind of get over it really quickly. But when I fail at something, I definitely stumble on it for a while, and it plays on my mind quite a bit, and I just feel like I am a failure. And my husband can definitely attest to this. Going back to kind of productivity guilt, there are times where I'll be at my peak for weeks, and then I'll just crash and burn, and I just feel overwhelmed. There's so much to do. My goals are so high. I can't achieve this. This person's achieving it and I'm not achieving it. Why have they're younger than me and they've done this and I haven't done it? And a lot of these emotions go through my mind, and I have to kind of be calmed down again. And it takes a few days for me to get back to mental stability. And it's like I said, it's productivity guilt. It's that guilt of feeling like we haven't done enough, even though you have. And actually, I was doing a bit of reading about this, and I read that capitalism can be to blame. And I've got a quote here, again, I'll read it out to you. It says that capitalism tells us unless we are productive, docile bodies, then we cannot be worthy in the capitalist factory. And the capitalist factory is the world that we inhabit. And this was actually written in 1995 and 1904, so quite a long time ago, but it exists even more so today. So essentially, the thought is that unless you're doing something all the time, you're not worthy. You're not sort of doing your best, you're not being productive. And this is something that is even more so apparent with the rise of like social media and the fact that you can always see what everyone's doing. Back in the day, pre-social media, you wouldn't know if someone had launched something or published something. You wouldn't know it in that instant. And sometimes it does feel like we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And I really want to write a book. That's one of my goals for 2022/3. And recently I've seen quite a few, like, not just influencers, but quite a few people that I follow in the productivity world. So for example, Grace Beverly, I talk about her book recently. She published a book. Vika TV published a book. There's a few other kind of educational bloggers as well who published books. And I've wanted to do this for so many years, like probably 2 or 3 years. I started writing and then COVID happened and I had a kid, and things just didn't really work out in terms of timing. And then sometimes when I see these, announcements, I'm obviously really happy, but at the same time I'm like, oh, I wish that was me. It's never too late, obviously. You can publish a book next year, the year after. But it's just that mindset of like, comparing yourself. We would never have compared ourselves as much as we do now had we not had, if we didn't have the social media and sort of that constant access to, I guess, seeing what everyone's achievements are all the time. But yeah, so these are some things that I do to kind of help tame my productivity guilt. And they really, really help. They really help me take a step back and think a little bit more about what have I actually done. It's more than enough. You do not need to feel bad or guilty or whatever about any of your current situation, because there's nothing to feel bad or guilty about. The first one is to have a minimal viable goal. So I call it an MVG. And I actually have a new time management course out. So do click in the link down below to access it. About an hour of how I manage my time in order to be efficient and get things done. But one thing that I mentioned is having a minimal goal. So essentially what your concept is you feel guilt because you're not actually aware of how much you have done. It's not that you've done nothing, but you have done lots today. But in my head, I'm like, oh, haven't done that other thing. And you're always considering what you haven't done rather than taking a look at what you have done. So by having a minimal goal, it means that I could say, okay, at minimum, I expect to have filmed, let's say, 1 video. So once that 1 video has been filmed, my productivity self is happy, right? And so anything done after that is considered extra. It's considered a bonus. So that way you're not wallowing with what hasn't been done. And you're aware of what should be done today, and once you've done that thing, you're good for the rest of the day. I mentioned this earlier, but don't compare yourself. It's so hard. It's so hard. And like I said, I probably compare myself all the time, and I'm sure you guys compare yourself to me as well. And I'm really aware of that. I'm really aware of sort of the way that I say things, the way that I announce things, what I say, what I don't always say. Like, I don't want you guys to feel guilty as a result of watching me and as a result of my announcements. So yeah, definitely not comparing yourself. Always remembering that everyone has their time, everyone's on their own journeys, everyone is on their own schedule. Another thing I do is speak to others, try to get some feedback from others. And when I say feedback, I mean like feedback about yourself. So, just speaking to someone close to you, so that could be like a partner, it could be someone who is really close and can be really honest with you, and just saying like, do you think I do enough? Do you think I'm right now I feel like I'm not working hard enough? What do you think? And they'll turn around and be like, no, you're posting this once a week, or you're graduated from this university, you're doing this, you've got a new job, and remind you of your successes and remind you of your worth and your value, to then help you reframe your mind when you want to do some work and you're trying to be productive, to help you kind of get rid of that guilt, kind of bigging you up in a way, essentially. Another thing that I've learned in the past year, especially since being a mom, is to allow for imperfections. Now, this is a huge problem with us productivity nerds. We just want things to be done really well, and so something that can take you an hour would take me a whole day because I want it to be done to perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. So it's important that we understand that. And so when getting a task done, just ensuring that it's done to a good standard, and that is like, it's good enough. It doesn't have to be excellent, it doesn't have to be perfect. And most of the time, I'm sure that if you've done a presentation or something and you feel like it's not perfect, the difference between what you think is perfect and what you actually make or actually design isn't that much. And whereas the effort and the mindset between the two is huge. So it's just important to kind of remind yourself that perfection doesn't exist firstly, and it's also diminishing returns. It's pointless. Another thing that I use, and again it's something that I talked about in my course, is the Parkinsons Law. And so the Parkinsons Law is a law that states that work takes the amount of time that you give it. So if you give something an hour to be done, it will take an hour to get done. If you give it a day to get done, it will take you a day to get done. So it basically expands the time that you give it. And I think this really helps when it comes to productivity guilt, because it means that you're not sitting down and procrastinating and kind of feeling guilty about what you haven't done, etc. You can just get it done, and it kind of gives you a bit of a mind block in a way. So let's say you have a task that you need to complete. You need to start writing an essay, you need to start reading or whatever. Giving yourself half an hour, set amount of time to just get it done, rather than giving yourself the whole day, which is what sometimes I do. And it's on those days where my days are really unstructured and I have a massive to-do list. Those are the days where I feel the most productivity guilt, because I have this massive to-do list. I haven't scheduled or thought about how much time things will take me, and so I expect this whole to-do list to be done when actually I've only got 2-3 hours. It's not possible for me to do all those things. So by using Parkinson's Law, I've already told myself, well, it'll take you an hour to film 1 video or 2 videos. Okay, so I know that's going to take me that time. It will take me this amount of time to do that. And so I have an expectation, and a realistic expectation of how long things will take. So yeah, definitely utilizing Parkinson's Law and really using like time blocking a little bit to help you. And the last one is to reflect on your goals and reflect on your journey. Again, with productivity guilt, it manifests in different ways, I'm sure, but for me it manifests in not thinking I've done enough, not thinking I've hit my goals, thinking that I'm so far away from different goals, etc. Thinking my goals are just too big for me. And actually, if I look back, and the other day I did this, I looked at my January New Year's resolutions for this year, 2021, and I had hit so many of them that I didn't even realize, and there were goals on there that I completely had forgotten was even a goal, and I had hit it, and that made me feel so good. And I stopped feeling that guilt, because I felt like, actually, you know what, you haven't done too badly, like considering, you know, I've been on mat leave in the beginning of the year, and then I went back to work, and I was like navigating it, you know, having a 1-year-old, etc., and moved house, like so many things. I'm like, I am actually really proud of myself, and that kind of gave me a little bit of a boost for the end of the year. And it's just reflecting on the goals and looking back sometimes actually really helps, not rather than just looking forward. Because if you were to ask me what are your goals for this year, I would have said, oh, okay, hitting 200k on YouTube, doing X, Y, and Z thing with the page doctor, my business. And I'm looking forward to what needs to be done, rather than thinking, well, actually, I've already done this, already done that, and these are massive achievements. So yeah, just reflecting, looking back. A lot of the time, like I said, we always look forward, and I think looking back is also just as important. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. I mean, I think productivity guilt, like I said, manifests in so many different ways, but for the most part, it manifests in a way that is unhealthy, and really, like, I've had to do a lot of like work on myself in order to cut it out, because it really is unhealthy and it's really unproductive. So yeah, let me know if you suffer from something similar. I know it's something that lots of us probably feel and don't really have a word for it, and don't really know what to call it, but there is a word for it apparently. It's called productivity guilt, and I am a sufferer of it. But yeah, I'm getting better for sure. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more from me, then I'd love it if you could subscribe. Let's get me to 200k, might as well, seeing as we're here. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.